This is Wookie. He doesn't know that Keyforge is still being played.
He probably
That's
doesn't even
not
know
true at all. I know things are going on.
So Keyforge is this game.
Tell me more.
Unique decks.
Gonna make you wonder why you even try. Gonna take it down and left for you to cry. And I still don't know how I even survive. You're not gonna get your rock bottom.
All right, guys, what's going on? I am the one, the only, the WOOKIE, back from my, what was I, Dan? Was I dead or was I hiding?
Probably dead.
Probably dead. I did have the Rona, so I mean that was a thing that did exist. So I'm making my comeback from that now. So that's 50% of the AC cast have had the Rona. Z, when are you getting it?
I think I'm getting it over the weekend, because if I get it over the weekend, that means I won't go back to school until January 4th.
Can you buy Corona on Craigslist?
Z's just going around licking people. Just come here.
Yeah, I'm gonna locate someone over the weekend, give myself a minor injection, and then report that I was exposed to the coronavirus. Not really.
And on better news, I think I'm all done playing Wookiees, or what we call Ryan Saves Wisconsin. I think my company's finally hired enough, and then Dan had to go ruin it. Somebody's going to die. But I think my company's finally hired enough people where I don't have to cover the entire state of Wisconsin anymore. So that's maybe a bonus. I listened to last week's episode, and, well, you guys suck. Anyways, in other news... No, nobody's going to say anything on that, huh? Not a word. I thought JR was my boy. I guess not.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm still stuck back on us making fun of Corona right now. It's not a joke.
No, it's not a joke.
We're struggling, so...
It is not a joke. But we're here to introduce, we're going to introduce a new segment this week. It's called Why You Suck at Keyforge. Dan, do you want to explain, since this is your brainchild, why don't you go ahead and explain to all the people why they suck at Keyforge?
Well, so inspired by my own excellent play in the KFPL, it turns out I suck at Keyforge. And everybody else has a lot of other podcasts and shows. They have very positive ways to say, here's how you can get better. But that's just not how I roll. I suck at Keyforge, and you guys are going to tell me how to quit sucking. So for this first one, KFPL match is my final match in the top 16. So my first round, and I went out, and I put myself on a Martian Generosity deck, and I refused to give up trying to play Martian Generosity. I was trying to force the combo. I think I had Martian Generosity in my hand for almost every turn of that game, and I played it once for like 4 cards.
Did you happen to listen to the commentary? I think I commented on that game.
I recall in that game, after I was like halfway through this game, and I'm messaging you saying, I've just screwed myself by chaining myself. Like, I realized my mistake.
I hope you guys were brutally vicious against Dan, because let me tell you, he doesn't hold back in his commentary against you.
Yeah, well, bad plays are bad plays, and I made a bad play. And, like, the deck I was playing is Martian Generosity. It does very good if it fires that. And, like, I got in a position where I couldn't do it. The deck has a ton of recursion, so I put it back in my hand, and then my opponent just did a fantastic job of keeping me from ever having Amber again. And this was a adaptive match, so then we traded decks, and he just read the deck much better than I did, because the deck he was playing had piss poor creature control, and my Martian Generosity deck has pretty good creatures, so he just outboarded me, and I think he played the Martian Generosity for 2 cards, and just went off, and then just played creatures, and just dominated me, and I couldn't get his deck to do anything. Like, he kept me off Amber the whole game, and I couldn't do anything with the deck, so... I don't know what was going on with my play of that deck. If I just had a rough draw or a mistake, or he was just staying so much more efficient than I was that it didn't matter.
Yeah, he just moved through his deck. So so how do you get better segment is this. Like, yes, combo decks obviously are there because they have a combo, but all decks have, 36 cards. They do other things. Like, most competitive decks, even that are combo decks, are competitive because they're high efficiency. If you're not going to hit the combo, you can use that efficiency to build board. You can use that efficiency to manage the creature side. You can use the efficiency to play pips. It can be done for all of that because all good combos are going to have an efficient engine, or else it's not a good combo deck. If you think you have a good combo deck with low efficiency, you're most likely wrong. Not that they don't exist, but just part of the engine of having a
That was
combo
kind
deck.
of brutal. If it's not efficient and you think you have a good deck, you're just wrong.
I said if they have a good combo deck, they could have a good deck. It's just
Oh.
I am not aware of any top end competitive decks that don't have it doesn't actually have to necessarily be in the F score itself, but they do have to have an efficient way to land the combo. And there are some decks out there that land their combo efficiently by grinding to where they need to get to the combo. Like, there's some Grump Buggy decks out there that do a certain thing. They only do that because they use Grump Buggy to get there. Because no one could. But that's, again, an efficient mechanism to hit the combo.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just like a lot of people are playing combo decks. Combo is fun. Like, I think it's the most fun, but sometimes you do have to give up on the combo and move on with the deck and realize when it's time. And that can be pretty hard to do. And if you don't, you end up like me and you suck at Keyforge.
Yeah.
Lose.
Well, I'm not saying Dan sucks at Keyforge. He'll tell you that he sucks at Keyforge. But in general, the thing that you need to know from this, how not to suck at Keyforge, or why Dan sucks at Keyforge, is in that moment is because he failed to pivot. All decks need to have a plan B in competitive cycle. No matter how good your deck is with a certain card or a certain mechanism, there are going to be decks that lateral shift you, control the weak you, Guntus you. Like, you need to be able to understand when it is time to move to plan B. And with reps and practice and understanding of Keyforge in general, you should be able to identify what a deck's plan B is. Because again, all decks have 36 cards. You can either generate tempo, or focus on the board, control the other side, all the other aspects of the game. I have a combo deck, Xiago. It's 3 Battlefleet key abduction. Most of the time, it wins its games all on one turn, forging all 3 keys. And in most of the time, my opponent has 2 keys on check with 15 amber for their 3rd key, and they think they're going to win the game. And then I win. But if that doesn't happen, or I believe that I'm not going to get there in time, I need to switch to plan B. Long time ago, I recognized that its actual amber rush potential is just as fast as a lot of rush decks. So if I know to make that decision early on, I have to switch to plan B and do that. And then from there, I'm playing a very, very different game with that deck.
So like our good friend Kenny Rogers once said, you have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Sure.
Crickets.
Despise
Awesome.
them.
Thanks,
There's
guys.
no folding in Keyforge.
I'm so glad that joke went over like a lead balloon.
I am shaking my head in disbelief. Oh my goodness.
In the fact that I know who that is, or
All of the above.
that I went there.
Judge all of the above.
Judge. Did you call a judge on me on the podcast? Jesus.
Judge.
What does that even mean? All right, but we got another segment for you guys today. That's why Dan sucks at Keyforge, and I think Z did an awesome job of explaining. You got to know that pivot point. When you're old and stubborn like Dan, you just sometimes don't wanna. And
There were plenty of other factors that go into maybe why I made bad decisions that day, but forcing the combo was the real problem.
yeah, you can't always rely on the combo. I think that goes about sums it up. Deck needs part 2 or something else it can do, or just give up and move on.
So I got a whole long list of how I suck at Keyforge, so we might do some more of these.
We'll definitely do more of these, especially considering there's not a ton going on at the current time. So we'll just listen to all of Dan's follies. So tune into the KFPL YouTube channel where you can hear Dan get angry. Or no, actually, you probably can't hear them, can you?
Nope.
So never mind. You can hear afterward. Actually, Dan, you should record you just getting angry.
Come to Chainbound,
Yeah.
and you can hear me complain about my deck.
And you can hear Dan get pissed off.
Ugh.
But the second part of today, I wanted to kind of go through this. There's been a lot of talk, and there's been a ton of talk in the community as to what to do with that 400th mid-60s SAS deck that you open that has, no synergies and 15 anti-synergies. That's just never going to see the light of day. Now, I've constructed this for a while. It's gone through already some iterations that I've talked it over with you guys for a little bit. And it's really kind of gone through a couple iterations. And we've I've kind of come to a conclusion on what we're going to cook. Should we call these impossible decks? Oh, God.
Judge!
Who groaned? Which one groaned? Which one was it? Was it Z first, then JR?
I was last.
You were last to groan?
I was first.
Or do we just want to call it Keyforge Constructed?
Well, you tell us about it, and then we will come up with
All right. So basically, the
Super
idea of Keyforge Constructed: pick 3 houses. It's still going to be kind of the same rules. 36 card decks, except you're going to have to go singleton. So there's going to be no doubles of any sort in your deck whatsoever. So 36 card deck, singleton. Bring whatever it is you like. And I think we did have a long talk about this, and I think we kind of went to 1 Maverick is allowed per deck. What other concerns did we have? And this is something I want the community to kind of be involved in, because this is kind of almost like you're in the corner. Again, unfortunately, the new Windows update, and like Dan said, it's always Windows. But for whatever reason, it reset everything, so OBS was actually putting in the wrong spot, but I know where to find it at least now. So that's good. Thumbs up to me. But basically, where do we leave off? Constructed Keyforge, singleton, 1 Maverick allowed per deck. And I really wanted this to be a community project, almost like a quote-unquote commander is controlled by the community. Magic has no say and kind of what is and isn't allowed in Commander. So I wanted this kind of to be that.
What is Commander? As a true Keyforge player here.
So Commander is a community-driven. You really have no idea, do you?
No.
Okay, so Commander is a completely 100% community-driven way to play Magic. You, instead of a 60-card deck, you have a 100-card deck with a commander. Everything in that format is also singleton. But basically, you can only play certain cards that align with your commander's color identity, which is... It's a community-driven way to play Magic.
Okay.
It's without going too much into it, because I could give you the whole rules, but I don't think a lot of people care, and then we'd be just another Keyforge podcast going into Magic.
Yep,
that's happened before. Anyways, so basically, I wanted kind of the community's idea, and I know not a ton of people are thrilled at the idea of a constructed Keyforge, but I just think with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of decks out there, that it's kind of one of those evolutions that needs to happen to put some of these cards to use. So go ahead, guys, tear it apart. I'll see you later.
What do you do with enhancements?
Enhancements needs to be accompanied by a card that gives enhancements. I didn't say that, did I? But it was something I think we did go through before. So if you have a card that is enhanced, it needs to be accompanied by a card that gives said enhancements.
So I have to play with cards that are already enhanced and then just find other cards to put in the deck to pay for those enhancements.
Correct.
Okay, that makes it sound like I could tear up a lot of decks, which is the point of this, so whatever.
Right, that's the whole idea. So I needed to figure out something to do with enhancements, And like, I mean, I think we talked about this before. Otherwise, we'd just be looking for cards with all enhancements, and it goes to just whoever bought the deck that has all the enhanced cards.
I was wondering if you're going to tell me I got to Sharpie enhancements onto my cards.
I mean, if you want to, that's up to you. I don't know if your opponent's going to like that, but I mean, you know, you can give it a whirl.
Keyforge constructed. What's he got to say about it?
Who got to say about it?
My in theory opponent. So you, the only other guy who's going to play constructed.
Oh well, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand what you're asking me, Dan.
You're saying they might care if I'm sharpening my cards.
Oh.
And
I mean, obviously, I care.
We do it or we don't.
Well, your idea to do with your decks is to just put them in the shredder. You want to use them as target practice.
So play with them and then tear them apart as we play them.
Oh, and then shoot them with guns.
No. That's a separate.
Oh, that's a whole separate thing.
I did just mail off 50 bulk decks to get turned into cubed. So, which is kind of like constructed, except it's got that draft thing.
It's got that draft feeling. But
plenty of other people have talked about cubes, so we don't really need to talk about that.
Right. We've got. I think we've kind of got cube down, don't we? I mean, we kind of figured out cube. No.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tear a bunch of decks. I'm gonna build one that I think is good based off of single card.
Correct. So each card can only have one copy.
But it's set agnostic.
Set agnostic. Use whatever you want.
So every deck's gonna have lateral shift.
Okay.
I mean, like, just every deck will have lateral shift.
I mean, I don't know what's going to come of this. That's why it's kind of a community project. Like, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, could we discover brand new archetypes that maybe we didn't see before? Probably not. I mean, I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Battle Fleet, Key Abduction, Martian Gen. You know, a lot of Logos card draw into a Martian Generosity into Key Abduction. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that. But the counter is built in, so you just play Dis and say you can't play, jar them. They can't play they can't play Key Abduction or whatever, and you need to have that in mind.
Well, it means every deck's going to have artifact control, so that's...
Well, I mean, yeah, every deck's going to have artifact control, so, I mean... Is that a bad thing?
I guess I'm just trying to think of a singleton deck that sounds any better than just playing any of the 500 decks I already have.
I mean, I'll take a Maverick Morpheus with a Guntus. Sounds good.
I mean, like, what's the reason to play this over just playing my trashy decks?
I mean, you could just play your trashy decks. I mean, what's the reason of playing Commander over playing regular Magic? Well,
so the point of Commander is it's got strict singleton rules, and it's supposed to be a relatively cost-effective way to play Magic.
That's 100% wrong, but anyway.
I said relatively.
Well, a single dual land is going to run you about $250.
Well, yes, and if you want to play competitive, true top-level competitive, and you can put in all the dual lands, that's a whole other thing. But, I mean, to build a good singleton deck, you're going to tear apart 20 decks to do it.
Sure.
Nah. Well, less than one dual land, but...
I was, and like I said, when we originally thought of it, I was thinking, well, why don't we go double deck? Why don't we go 60 cards? You were the one who reeled me in from that. Saying that you didn't think that there were 20 solid cards in every house to be played.
What?
Which I'm not saying you're wrong. That's why we reeled it back to 36.
Yeah, when you get to 20 singleton in some houses, I mean, like Mars.
That's why I'm spitballing. I mean, I'm make it better. I this is what I came up with, and that is the extent of my creativity. Let's make it better now. That's why it's an open discussion. This is where all of you talk.
As you can see, we have deep thoughts happening about this. And
I see. And here.
I mean, like, straight up, why did I get into Keyforge? So I don't have to build decks.
Sure.
And now you're telling me to build a deck. So I feel I feel like I'm being stabbed in the back.
Well, but it's not FFG telling you that. That'll come next year.
Right.
I what else do you want to do with 200 decks?
I mean, I collect them and I play some of them.
Yeah, you play some of them. What I want to know what is the percentage of decks you play versus the percentage of decks you own?
I mean, I have 1,300 decks. So
Okay, and how
the
many of those do you
percentage that I
actually play?
Has to be like 1% or less because I have that many.
Right.
So, what's the problem with that?
Oh, it's more than 1%. 1% is only like 13.
Okay, fine.
Have
like
you played
10%.
over 13 decks?
I have definitely played at least 100 of them. Actually, no, I've played probably about 200 of them.
Not including sealed events?
Yeah,
Really? 200?
I've played at least 200 of the decks that I own. Yeah.
I mean, because I went through iterations on this where I gave cost to things, but I was like, that's too much.
Okay.
Like
if
in
I have to-
total, counting
have
the
to
decks
go
that
in
I've
and
sold
start
and
creating
own
things.
currently, I have probably played around 500 decks that I have owned at some point in time.
500 of them? No.
Yes.
Really? You think you've played
Like
500
before
of them?
Tracker shut down, it said I had played like 240 different decks, and at that point in time, I'd spent most of my time not playing on Tracker.
You know, Dan, and I've thought of your reasoning to this now that I'm sitting here thinking a little bit. And you're telling me why can't I just play my crummy decks? And
I know why I don't play my crummy decks, because they're crummy.
Right, but we just talked about it. Like, why play this instead of anything else? And I know like I said, if it's not going to be for everyone, I've already come to the realization that this isn't going to be for maybe a majority of Keyforge players, because a lot of us got into this because no deck building sounds easy, and we just kind of dumbly thought that, oh, we're going to get into this and every deck's going to be equal. And then very quickly and soonly we figured out, no, not every deck's equal. And I think very quickly and soonly we're also figuring out, if you don't have the deck, you don't stand the chance. There is a certain point to, the player is the pilot, but at some point, some decks just don't have answers. And if you're not rocking one of those high tier, high end decks, I don't think you stand a chance. I don't think a good player can make a bad deck good. And I don't think that an atrocious player can make a good deck that bad. I don't think there's a threshold when you come down there.
There's definitely a threshold where a bad player can stink with a good deck. I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the name right now. But I definitely know a scenario where...
Guys, I'm over here on this side of the podcast.
I'm right
I mean,
here,
come on.
guys. But like I'm saying, can a good player take a mid-range deck and make it that much better? I don't think the answer is yes.
No,
I made top 2 of a vault with a deck that should not have gotten that far.
And that happened how many times?
I mean, I 6-0 3 different day 1 vaults in sealed, and in none of those events was my deck anywhere near the best in day 2.
You're also playing sealed, though. The pool is a lot smaller.
But the sealed, you're just talking about deck quality. Like,
sure,
that's
I
what
am
you're
talking about deck quality.
Not necessarily the pool. Like, either way, you're going to have it, like, you're going to cut to a pool, and you will know where your deck is and the pool that it came from. It's not like I got Nathan's deck that he won with.
Sure. Sure.
So nobody here is saying that player skill doesn't impact, but you are right in the regard that there is a significant amount of deck quality and player skill. I mean, player skill cannot fix any deck. Like,
No, that's true. There are definitely decks that I've gotten in sealed events that there's nothing that I could have done to improve upon my 4-2 that I went. But even getting 4-2 with some of those, I feel was pretty good accomplishment. But like, that's the thing, like, that's part of Keyforge. But you can definitely put a good, like, a lights out, fantastic deck into a bad player's hands and they lose games en masse. For sure. Definitely have seen.
Yep. So that can happen. But
So
we were talking. I wanted to come back to why do we even need something to do with our bad decks?
I want to stumble
Because no one
into
will
this.
buy them.
Okay,
So
nobody will buy your 10,000 card box of Magic Commons either.
Sure.
So why I don't get why this is such a problem to Keyforge people, in that you have a bunch of decks that are useless. Like, that's something unique to this game, and people say, well, Magic cards can be used anywhere. But go into any decent Magic store or any decent card store and look in their trash bin, and it's full of Magic Commons, because people crack packs, they take the rare, and they will literally just throw the rest into the garbage because it's worthless. So any game that is collectible is going to have worthless stuff in it, and you just accept it. At least this has formats where you play them.
Yeah, see, that was where I was coming in. For me, if you're playing Magic, at least you're hoping for the rare to be able to pull it. You can toss the other items. Here, when you get a Keyforge deck, we were sold under the Bill of Rights that you're getting a unique deck. Yes, check. But that every deck is there and can go ahead and be competitive is not. I think that was a fallacy that many individuals kind of bought in early on of, oh, I can just buy a deck and I can play it forever. The end answer is that's not a viable
not a fallacy,
option.
though. I mean, you can buy one deck and play it forever.
Sure, you can play it forever, but not in a competitive sense, not in a consistent piece that even at your friendly local game store. You can't buy one deck and just go there and just keep it from Coda all the way through. I'm sorry, unless there's just a really large piece that's missing in that regard. And we have to be honest. And that's why I think people are looking at this. It takes up space. And so if it is just cardboard and it's not have any value for selling, for replaying, and people are looking at it going, it's not worth it. There is a game experience. I am one of those people who play quite a few of my decks. I am at a much higher percentage of played versus that is unwrapped or not played. But I think our big issue right now, from me personally, is that we have not tapped into the different variants. We've honestly seen Sealed and Archon. And as someone who likes adaptive, when you're talking about adaptive, fine, we both bring decks. You may have this overpowered deck, but I at least stand a chance knowing the cards and the background. I may not have that deck, and there's something from getting multiple repetitions off of it. But we need to be able to see adaptive. We need to see reversal. Frankly, our group has never gone ahead and run reversal for anything that's worthwhile. No store championship. I mean, it's not been a vault tour. We have options, but we're not even tapping into them.
Yeah, it's funny how much I disagree with playing adaptive and reversal as serious competitive formats in general. I'm not a fan of adaptive, as I have expressed here and on plenty of Discord forums. I think often adaptive comes down to two relatively equal decks, and somebody gets the high roll, and you don't even go to chains, and it's not fun.
It is one of the major issues with adaptive. There's no question about it. But if someone's coming in, someone who's just entering from MM, if they don't have any past experience with Coda, with AOA, with Worlds Collide, it's a way that we can break down that barrier to let people in and start to play. And I think that is being looked. Right now, we're not pulling, because of COVID, we're not pulling anyone in, frankly. Mm-hmm. Our numbers are decreasing. We're seeing people selling their collections or leaving.
Yeah, a lot of people are leaving. I do see that. Like, I don't like to talk about that, but I think it's impossible to ignore that now. Like, this week alone, I saw, I don't know, at least 4 people put up their collections or a large amount of their good stuff. So
I'm not tapped into any other gaming communities. I wonder if that's happening anywhere else.
No, it's not.
I don't believe you.
Pokemon is hotter than ever.
Well, anywhere that has like a competitive Like Pokemon also has a competitive digital arena, right?
Sure, they do,
Yeah.
but Pokemon, I'll tell you what, I've been playing Pokemon since the start, and for those of you playing Sword and Shield, which was earlier this year. I've never had a problem buying Pokemon cards. Like, I normally can just go to my local game store and, hey, I want a box of whatever the newest set is. Yep, here you go, not a problem. Darkness Ablaze, which was the 2 sets ago. It's not the most recent. Most recent is Vivid Voltage. Darkness Ablaze came out right before it.
Okay, we don't need this many Pokemon facts.
Well, the thing is, I physically right now, I cannot buy I cannot buy the most recent set.
Okay.
Physically.
If you listen to many Keyforgers, many people who play Keyforge cannot physically get Mass Mutation decks right now.
Yeah.
Where?
They are not out there. You can't get them. They're not in distribution. They're not getting to stores, and this both has a lot to do with stores can't afford to order anything.
Yep.
And to order from distribution, to get, if they're a smaller store or a mid-sized store and they want 1 or 2 boxes of a set, they're getting it through a mixed distributor, and then their minimum order is $500 to get free shipping. So they can't afford to place these orders, a lot of these comic book / card game shops anymore.
Sure.
It's too expensive to get things through distribution.
But is that the problem, or the game's just dying?
I think that it's a really tough time that honestly the community here has been pulling everyone along. And I'm going to go ahead and voice the online community has been doing amazing. I'm having a blast with AVR. We have Coats, which you'll hear a little bit about next week. You have KFPL. There is some phenomenal things happening online, but we're in a pandemic. And so people, one, don't necessarily have the extra income.
Sure.
They're stuck inside. And if you don't have that digital client, or you're not even aware of TCO, let's go ahead and state it because they're doing a phenomenal job keeping this game where it is, that you basically are playing on your kitchen table with your immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
So with people still not aware of online resources, it's on us, but how can you grow your community? If you're brand new, if you walk into a game store and you just see a deck of Keyforge, how do you know that TCO is there? How do you know that you're going to go ahead and get deeper into the game?
Oh yeah, I mean this game has been expressed many times by everybody involved. The fact that there is not official online Keyforge is what, especially in this time of COVID, is really killing this thing because you can't really advertise it. I mean,
But
would think
here's the thing I'm going to tell you. Here's the thing I'm going to tell you. I get that what you're saying about local game stores. Next time you go to your local Walmart, go over to the shitty section they have with all their games in it. You know, their Yu-Gi-Oh. They only carry 3: Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and Pokemon. Go over there.
3.
They're all sold out. I went to
That's
Walmart today. That section is completely cleared out. There is no Yu-Gi-Oh, there is no Pokemon, there is no Magic to be had there. I also went to Target to try to get some Vivid Voltage as well. They are as well completely sold out. Like it is a bare shelf. There is nothing there.
I'm not in the Pokemon market, so I don't know, but there's always plenty of trash on the shelves when I go to stores.
Well, not right now. There's not. And I don't know if this had a lot to do, because obviously, if you've been paying attention, Logan Paul did his big Pokemon thing. I don't know if that has to do with it. Now everybody's like, I've noticed a lot of YouTubers now, oh, I like Pokemon too, and now all of a sudden I can't buy a damn thing. The people who want to play it and are playing it can't buy any of it. So does that have something to do with it? Maybe. I don't know. But that wouldn't explain why Magic is sold out, and that wouldn't explain why Yu-Gi-Oh is sold out. So I can't explain those two. The only thing that's left on those shelves is baseball and football cards.
Yeah, I was just in a store and I've not encountered the same thing.
Mm.
So I don't know, but
maybe I need to take a trip down to your neck of the woods, because up here it is picked clean. I have physically called and driven to, let's see, 1, 2, 3. How many stores did we go to that day? 4, 5?
Big box retail distribution is so different than game store distribution. Like crazy things happen with distribution when it comes to big boxes. They'll have like stuff that will be sold out at game stores. Like it'll be on the secondary game store market. There is a secondary wholesaling game store market that you can get boxes of Magic on. So once the distributor's out, there's like a secondary thing.
Right.
And the boxes will be going on that for 2 to 3 times cost. And then all of a sudden Walmart will have it on sale because that distribution chain is 100% separate from the distribution chain. Just like, so it's very different. So it could just be that Excel or whoever's stocking them, their person in this area, the person who stocks yours, because all that stuff is stocked by not by a Walmart employee. It's stocked by the employee.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
stocked by whoever it is, Excel or what's another one, Hart.
Yeah, so it could be that your distributor guy has COVID and he's just not stocking store shelves right now. I mean, it could be as simple as that because you're shopping one area and it's all stocked by the same guy.
I doubt it. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on it, but I doubt it because a new League Battle deck came out, and I was lucky to get my hands on the last 2 that were there. And those just came out like a week ago. So I don't think that's the case, at least in my area, but it could be in other areas.
At big box stores anyways. Knock it off.
Well, my local game store won't buy them, or can't get them.
Yeah, and part of that is coming down to the cost. Again, what has to be put in up front. I will say long ago, I think it actually came from the Key Chargers podcast, which has been defunct for quite a while. They had talked about moving to a much quicker set rotation. Instead of twice a year, being able to move to either trimester, so 3 times a year or 4 times a year. I was really adamantly against that early on when I heard it. But I know that with AOA, we had a lot of people burn out near the end and they're just done. And I think with COVID, you're sitting at home, people are playing. I will say the online group from our Chainbound, they're an absolute blast. The events that I participate in for ABR, amazing. What we're playing for KFPL, I've had more fun in these. This matches the amount of fun that I have at Vault Tours, which was the reason that I'm still here and making this podcast, why I'm in Keyforge and why I'm actually buying decks and still participating. But I will, I can't explain why others aren't necessarily doing the same or why Keyforge seems to have a different perspective coming in. It has been a while that we've been here under duress from COVID. And I know people are alarmed. They're trying to go and try different pieces. Our attention as a society is pretty short-minded. We turn around pretty quickly. And as a result, if there isn't a new product, if there isn't something new, people wean. People go away from the game. And maybe when we see Dark Tidings come, we'll have a couple more people come back. I just don't know if we have enough influx of people coming in for those that are leaving. That's the question that's on my mind.
Well, did anybody watch the most recent Crucible cast?
Yeah.
Because I didn't.
No.
No?
No, that's not true. I watched it at 2.5 speed or something.
Well, I'm getting a little nervous because crowd reaction isn't exactly awesome for Keyforge right now. If you look on their page or like to dislike ratio, now 70%, I'll just kind of preference by that. Anything below, I believe it's actually 80, is it 80% is red. So I'm just scrolling through, looking at all the red that is up there. Besides one video they did on Legends of the Dark, which is some Descent product they make. I'm not familiar with it. It's something they must be coming out with because they had a teaser trailer. But beyond that, the only ones that they have that are in the red or even the yellow are all Keyforge. Every one of them going from 7 months ago. So you got one from 5 months ago, that's in the red. You got two from 4 months ago, both of those are in the red. Another one from 4 months ago in the red. We finally got in the green when we were talking about the hunt for mass mutation. And then all of a sudden, we go back to Crucible Cast 23. That one's in the yellow, sitting at 89%. But then we go to Crucible Cast 24, red. Crucible Cast 25, red. That one right now is sitting at 39% like to dislike ratio.
Did you see what it was about? That's the one where they said, play it by using your webcam. I mean, like,
Oh, Lord.
you got to be kidding me, right? And it's also where they made questionable rules calls. Like, I do not disagree. We talked about that Crucible Cast previously while you were off playing COVID King or whatever.
I am
like,
king of the COVID, damn it.
FFG is not doing well regarding Keyforge. We just talked about that they just lost some key employees that weren't necessarily Keyforge related, but the fact that you hear absolutely nothing from the Keyforge guys either doesn't help.
When's the last time
anything
we had a
either.
Wild Massey sighting? Was he? He wasn't on
He
that
wasn't on
one.
the last show. They had the
He wasn't
fuzzy-
on that one.
fuzzy
He wasn't
Massey.
on that one. Was he on this one? The Hunt for Mass Mutation. Let's
So
see. Yep, he was there.
The issue that you see about that Wookiee is that you would see each of these individuals come out when we're at Vault Tours.
Right.
We haven't had Vault Tours.
Sure.
And so, for them to be cited, it's just coming out in a Crucible cast. There is no other option for them
Sure.
to really come out.
No, I get that.
I'd like something creative where they come and they actually let us know something. I'd like a space to be able to communicate. But again, that's, I don't know. I'm a little sad for where we have gone. There's options to take this game so much further.
Well,
but,
that's why I kind of like, what if I had a deck that I was able to construct? Because I'm tired of buying decks because these ones are no good. But I have all the pieces. You know what I mean?
Gotta
It's
buy
like
more decks.
you got
Open more packs, man. Buy more decks.
I understand that, but it's not like we're buying Pokemon packs where they're $4 a pack, and then I can take the things that I'm in there and construct something different anymore. Now it's I'm spending $10, which I get it. I'm getting 4 times the amount of cards, so I expect to pay more because I'm getting more. However, that deck's a hole. I can't change that thing in any sort of way. And the more decks I get, the more I just have more of these 4 and 5 row boxes sitting under my love seat because that's where I store my
How many 4 and
decks.
5 row boxes of Pokemon do you have now?
What's that?
How many 4 row boxes of Pokemon do you have?
None. I have 1 2-row box of Pokemon.
Well, you just aren't buying enough, clearly.
Well,
Because you also have never tried to play that on a competitive scene.
Pokemon? Well, no, because when I picked up Pokemon, we were all going through COVID. So, I mean, and a lot of the things that I have, because PTCGO is very different from the actual physical cards. If I need physical cards to build a deck, a lot of the times I just go buy them. Like, I buy a booster box from each set, so I bought a booster box of Sword and Shield, I bought a booster, so on and so forth. So basically,
It's
I bought
on the
4.
Pokemon cast, so keep it moving.
So I understand, Dan. I was getting there, but thank you. So basically, I've bought 3 booster boxes because I haven't been able to buy any of the new one. And if I'm missing things, I just go buy them online.
Okay, so
I
you
just
spend
go
some
buy the
money,
singles online.
You go buy what you want online, and
Yeah.
then you play.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you said there that you can't do in this game.
Sure, but however, what's one deck in Keyforge running me right now?
One good quality mid-70s deck is easily
$10.
$10. $10 will get you something that would have won a Vault Tour 2 years ago when this game came out.
Okay, well, I want to win one a year ago.
Guys,
I don't
every
know if it's
deck
like
that
that,
has won any Vault Tour was bought for $10 at one point.
Right, but you're missing the point
Yeah.
here. I mean, you're missing the point hard.
So I think the piece that needs to be stated and kind of looked at is that we as a human group go ahead and have a competitive nature more often than not. The people who are not listening to this podcast are not, our table top people who are at home with some pretzels and beer and enjoying a game. They're not digging in deep like this. But FFG is trying to take care of two different types of clients. One, I want to play just with my spouse. Here's 2 decks. Here's a great investment for a night, $20, and we play. I think that one of the pieces that came up in our Chainbound was the idea of when we started Coda, there were 2 decks that actually were fairly well matched that had no ability to be played anywhere else, but that hasn't existed since Coda. So that would be something that I could give concretely to FFG and say, I think for the starters, that having 2 random decks plus 2 set decks that you can play would be a nice piece. You're going to have to bring that price point down. And honestly, for those of us who are going to buy multiple starters, that's not going to help us. But it's a great way that when you're teaching the game, it can be balanced. Because buying 2 random decks is not balanced. And I need to make sure that I want to be able to pull 2 decks and play and have fun. And I guess the difference of having fun and being competitive is where this podcast is at. We can have fun with those 2 decks, but if you want it to be competitive, it's not the same thing. It's not happening.
And I think the bell curve on competitive versus casual decks is very, very high.
You think that there's a large amount of
I think there is
decks?
a much larger amount of decks that are unplayable than are good decks.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah,
But-
hands down.
I mean, I agree with that because of AOA. Just
that whole set.
it's like 99% of however many AOA decks are printed.
Right, but we'll just even take AOA out of it. Coda, I felt, was very...
Every
Coda,
deck with
I
no
felt,
shadows almost.
It was very
Yeah.
it was very balanced. But the more deeply we get into sets, we're finding that this what do you call that? The in-between seems to get much wider and wider and wider and wider and wider.
Yeah.
No, Mass Mutation, there is so much playable stuff in it.
Yeah, I feel most decks that I have opened in Mass Mutation are playable to a degree, way more so than any of the other sets on average that I
Playable
opened.
for fun or gonna win
Playable
something?
to like win a sealed.
To win a sealed.
Yeah.
90% of what we're playing right now isn't sealed.
But that's the thing, like that has nothing to like that is just the nature of the game because of the way the game is.
Mhm.
The more sets that are released, the higher the threshold of entry for a competitive environment is going to be, regardless of what the deck generation was initially. Like it didn't matter what the power level was of the original deck. That was going to be true.
All right. So should we be talking about what to do? I mean, because the whole idea of Constructed was this is what to do with your decks that don't see the light of day. That's really where it spurred from.
I'm rolling back to my defense of I don't know why people. So one of my segments for why you suck at Keyforge is because you think every deck should be playable, and that's just not how this works. And
Well,
that's
hold
one of
on. Just because
my-
somebody thinks every deck should be playable as an ideal is very different from every one of these decks is absolutely playable. Like, the ideal is very different from the idea.
Anyways, 90% of Magic cards are never shuffled into a deck. Like, I don't know why people are so obsessed with Keyforge that everything you open needs to have use. Most card games, if you are not a singles buyer, which you can do in Keyforge, you can choose to buy no Keyforge, you can do the Lean Forge, you can own 12 decks, they can all be good, and you don't have this problem. Or you can be like the Magic players and me, who love opening packs, because I might get the shiny, rare, epic, whatever stupid thing in Magic, or I get some crazy deck in this, and that I love the chase, I love the excitement, so I do that, and I'm going to end up with a bunch of trash. It's the same thing in Magic. If I'm chasing because I love the chase, I'm going to end up with a bunch of trash I can't do anything with. And most Magic packs you spend $4 on, you get a 10-cent rare out of. You spent $4 and now you have 10 cents. And in Keyforge, you spend $10, and yeah, you're right. You're lucky if you have $1 often. Like
I was
most,
going to say, I'm lucky if I have anything.
but that's the truth in Magic too. You spend it, and then you show it to the Magic shop and they go, we won't give you a dime or a penny for any of that. You spent $4 and now you have nothing.
Sure.
And you can do that in 3 packs. And then you spend $12 and have nothing. That's Keyforge too. You spend $10 and you have nothing, or you spend $10 and you have something awesome. That's the chase.
So my
right?
question
and
for you is, how does Keyforge survive then?
The same way Magic does. The people who like to chase.
The whales?
The seriously
No, it's just the
competitive
people that
Magic players do not buy an open. They buy singles, right? They buy the cards they want. They don't buy any of the trash. All these games survive partially on the whales, but mostly on the casual. And this game is going to have a real problem in that there is no ability to pick up more casuals right now because there's no way to play.
Yeah, like that's what I was going to say. What we should do, if we're really talking about what we should do with all of our extra decks, the decks that we just don't play, is once COVID is over, once Corona is like I'm not saying it's going to be over, but once our crisis is dealt with in some kind of way, and locals continue to run events and organize stuff, is you need to take a box, set up 12 decks in there, put some tokens in there because a lot of us have tons of tokens from starters, and take it to your locals, find 2 people that are playing there, give it to them, and show them how to play the game.
That is
work,
what
Z.
That doesn't
all
work.
of us need to do.
Z, I've done it. It doesn't work.
Well, then you're not good at it.
Well,
Get better.
I did okay. I mean, like, I gave away decks and a few people played, and then they came back for a few weeks before COVID hit, and that all died.
I mean, I know there's going to be
a numbers
severe
game.
return
If
on
you do it
investment.
enough times, long enough, you will get people, and every one person is one gained. If all of us that actually are active and played got one more person, that significantly increases the number of people playing this game. Even if it took you 12 attempts. And that's just 144 decks. We have that many. It's fine.
No, we do. I'm not saying I don't have 144 decks. Obviously, I can do that, but I need something more concrete and something more stable. And Dan, I get your point to a point, but at the other degree, it's like, hey.
I mean, I had the packs made. I was ready to do that. I still have the packs made. I literally have, I don't know how many are sitting around here. There's like 20 starter kits. Each of them have 8 decks in them with tokens that I was going to give to people and teach them how to play. But, the world shut down.
Yeah, I don't know if the idea of like we've always said, well, just give them away, and it's like
not just give them away. Like go to the shops, find people to play them, and ask them if they would like to play a game, and give them the stuff that then tell them when the events are. I mean, like it's not like people like to play games, especially if you're giving them stuff.
JR, did I not do this?
Yeah, I mean, so I do agree with Wookiees that we did go ahead and try and bring others in. There were quite a few decks. I want to continue to encourage that we have to do more, that, sometimes you're just going to give decks away because people are not going to be coming back. Not every game comes. There's different things that happen in life. It's frustrating. It's frustrating when you're investing money and then they're not willing to come back. Or the bigger piece outside of money is actually the time. You put up time to hopefully get people to come in. The other issue that I have is we're really talking about these mediocre decks. And so giving mediocre decks to new players is fine until we get to Chainbound. Yeah. Chainbounds, even putting chains on these decks doesn't make them better. So, and I'm saying competitive decks. So all of a sudden I can bring a good deck and it gets hammered with chains, and it can either drastically impact that deck or it has little impact on the deck. And people who are even walking in with the 12 decks I gave them, they don't have the expertise to be able to kind of stand a chance with some of these games, let alone if they bring a mediocre deck. They're not competitive. And after so often, they go home and they're like, well, I didn't go ahead and win. I didn't make it 50%.
So how do people get into Magic then? Because you can't show up to Magic with a random. You can't buy a 45 card starter and 4 packs and make a 60 card deck that has any chance of surviving in any kind of constructed field, right? That's what sealed is for. That is where that's what you got to sell them. You got to give them the 8 decks so they learn the rules and understand how to play. And then after that, it's sealed in draft style formats, which in Magic, it's almost always draft. But it's sealed style formats because there is the issue of deck quality. And you can't invite people that you don't know to the game by giving them good competitive decks. At least most of us aren't willing to just hand off our competitive decks so somebody might start playing this game. So you got to give them decks so they can learn how to play, which is the same thing Magic is. Most of those 45 card starters or 2-player starter decks aren't that good, but they're enough to learn the rules of the game and play. And then they got to start in sealed. And then it comes down to them if they want to, how they want to play the game, how they want to interact. There's a lot of people who only play sealed Magic. They never get into constructed Magic because it's garbage they're not interested in. Even in Keyforge, I know a few people who basically only play sealed versions of Keyforge. They have no interest in trying to keep a top tier competitive deck around because it's expensive and a pain in the butt, just like Magic. Like if you want to stay on top of the meta and keep a competitive deck, it is expensive and takes time. Like you got to keep buying and keep changing things to do it. And that's sort of true in Keyforge, although a lot of what was truly good early on is still good now. Like this game has, for the 4 sets, there are definitely evergreen decks. I mean, stuff that was good when Coda came out is still good now, and stuff that was a couple of good AOA decks that we all figured out, Merchant Generosity decks, were good then, and they're still good now, right? Like the evergreen
even
thing
with Jar out there, Jinka is still top tier. Like it's certain Jinka, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
You may have to have a Genko with some artifact control to help, but like the evergreen nature of this is here, where that's one of those things you can't do with Magic. You can't give somebody a 60-card Magic deck, even if it's pretty good, and say, you don't ever have to buy another deck for this game, because in a month or 3 months, some of the cards in that are now out of format and you're out. Right?
Almost every deck has been evergreen. I have one deck that used to be one of the best ever. But anyway.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like the evergreen nature of this is been much more true than some other card games. So I don't know. I guess I don't know where I'm going now, but I think, like Keyforge is doing most of what it said. I mean, anybody who ever believed you can buy one deck and play forever on it was kind of delusional anyways. I don't know if that was ever actually the sales line. It is buy one deck is all you need to play. That is true, but not be competitive in open Archon formats.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's where we're going to end it today. I want to hear what everyone out there has to think. So come on over to the Discord. Let us know kind of what you guys think. I'm interested. I still think finding something to do with them in a constructed format has its worth. Dan doesn't, and that's fine. Like, number one, like I said, this format, I said it a while ago when I wanted to talk about this. This format wasn't going to be for everybody. Not everybody's going to like it, and that's fine. Like, it's not a big deal.
I just invested in a cube. I am all for other ways of playing Keyforge. I just don't like having to sit down and look at all of my cards and think about the best way to build a deck. That's just never interested me. I mean, like, I like cube. It's on the fly. You got to be able to do it right there with what's in front of you. It's more in my skill set. I just like that better than sitting there and having to think about the whole wide world of Keyforge and every possible card and how I'd want to build a deck. That's just not something I like to do.
Well,
which is why, and
that's
Keyforge.
Fine. That's why Keyforge kind of has started the way, or here. This is why a lot of us got into it. But I think, at least for me, and maybe that's not everybody, it left a yearning for more, and it left the idea of possibilities, and I'm interested. So, like I said, I knew this wasn't going to be for everyone, and I knew 60% of people weren't going to like it because it goes against everything the game is. I knew that. But I figured, what's the harm in number one? What's the harm in trying? But like you said, now I have to find somebody to play with, and you don't want to, so that's cool.
And you
JR,
can't
what's up,
load
buddy?
it into the Crucible.
That's good. Well, then there we go. There's the other problem again. I mean, you can't load it into the Crucible, but we've gone through the need for what is needed right now in Keyforge. I don't really want to rehash that all over again.
Well, as we're wrapping up, I do want to remind people this Saturday, the 5th, 11 a.m. Eastern, we do have KFPL Triad 75 SAS cap. Come play. $10. $10 will also go to Doctors Without Borders. Support Keyforge and workers around the world.
When it sounds Saturday?
You're saying a total of $10?
It's $10 buy-in, and then for every person that buys in, we have Keyforge donors that will match that $10. So if you register, you'll pay $10. It'll go to the pricing for the event. It'll go to the pricing for the league. And then another group of Keyforgers out there will pay additional $10 to Doctors Without Borders.
I'm looking for my phone.
I want to be specific. I know that we're helping out with that, but there is a lot of need out in this world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a phenomenal benefit. We, get to play games. We are blessed with our health. We're blessed to be able to be here on a podcast and to be able to say our opinions and do it very openly. There are a lot of individuals who don't have those same rights and that ability. So please come out, support, and know that each of you who joins, one, you get to play some great games, and two, there's going to be some money that's sent over to Doctors Without Borders. So
we're hoping to get over 100 this time. Right now,
Yep.
We're sitting at, I think, 40-something registered and paid. I expect to get 20 over the next couple, each of the next days leading up to the event.
There were a lot of people waiting for this SAS update.
Yes, there was a SAS update today, which is Wednesday. So, hey, your sassy decks might have changed, and you might have some decks that are 78 now, but guess what? They are still valid as long as the SAS was 75 or below in the month of December or November. We are accepting that score. So you might actually... I have a deck that went from 75 to 80. That is valid. Sounds fun.
You want to know what's sad right now? My best
What?
deck is an AOA deck.
That is very sad.
But weirdly enough, it was one of the ones we were looking at that was like one of the better AOA decks at the time. So when AOA first came out, it is now sitting at 84 SAS. Crazy.
Nice.
Crazy, but it's good. So I don't know what I'm doing this weekend. I'm hoping to actually make it to one of these damn things.
Well, sign up. Play Keyforge.
Like Dan said, I'm done saving the world, at least for a little bit. So hopefully, I'm not. I mean, because you guys are going to remember, I was working 7 days a week during my little stint there for the past almost 3 months. So, I mean, there was days I was working 6 days, and my day off was for travel, And just last week I worked every store in the state in the week. So I was literally working a store, traveling to a store, working that store, then traveling to another store, working that store. So it's been fun, but it seems like we've got it all figured out. Crazy as in people need jobs, but man, we can't hire nobody. Yeah, so that might be done. I think I have off Friday, Saturday this week. No, Thursday, Saturday, something like that. So
if you have off Saturday,
I
sign up.
gotta double check.
$10.
It was either Saturday or Sunday. So, but we're still doing Chainbound, are we not? Thursdays and Saturdays.
I'm hoping
Thursdays and Sundays. I'm sorry.
Thursdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. CST. I'm hoping that next week I will have the stuff to run it in hand, but we should be announcing our Archons Corner fancy sealed event. We're targeting January 2nd, and we're hoping to run a pretty cool sealed event that will hopefully have more information for next week once I have the product in hand. So
Baller.
watch out for that announcement.
So we'll be back next week. What do we got? You guys got somebody special coming on next week, don't we?
Yeah, we got
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
That's his stripper name.
Yes, who's going to come talk to us about Coat and all the cool things you can do playing in the Coat League. Most of us here, actually all of us here, have been involved at least one Coat. So he'll come talk to us about that.
Except for me, I don't have any friends that want to play with me.
Did you not join us in one?
No.
Oh.
I was with you guys for Shadow Worlds.
He doesn't play Keyforge.
Yeah,
Come
that's
on.
right.
I was with you guys for Shadow Worlds.
Yes. I wanted to give a shout out to the Keys to ESP. They're new to the podcasting world here on Keyforge. I think they're like 6 episodes in. So they're getting on their feet and talking Keyforge, and more people talking Keyforge is good. So you guys can go listen to them. And then, and a big thanks to Help from Future Self, because they keep recording and making content as well. So it's good to have consistent Keyforge content coming out. I happen to be a podcast person myself. I know there's lots of people YouTubing and Twitching, but I am a podcast listener at heart.
Dan
so
hates
I
YouTube.
really appreciate. Yep, if you think I'm bad at YouTube, you should see me try to use the Twitters. Ugh.
I think we need to get Dan a Twitter, like stat.
I have a Twitter now.
Oh,
I
that's
had to
right,
come
you
in
do.
and tell you to shut your mouth.
That's right. Yeah, he tweeted at me once.
Yes. So yeah. And hopefully some of these other people like Slacktimonious comes back and records again. Wild Wormhole. I think they hit their key hammer and they just rage quit after that.
Just busted.
Yep. So hopefully some of these guys get back to recording.
Yeah,
There's still great Keyforge being played. So there is stuff to talk about.
I do need to get back into the swing of things. It has been 2-3 months since I've actually gotten to play. So I'd like to get back into my hobby, So it would be nice to play a few games. So I have off, I think, tomorrow. So I'll at least be able to play in Chainbound. So that's exciting.
That is exciting.
So we'll see about Saturday. So Z, you got any last send-offs for us?
That's it. Just come out, play in the KFPL, keep supporting Keyforge. Well, none of us, the game is not going to persist without you all. We appreciate you all listening and playing. I wish I could play Saturday, but I'll be running it. So I'll be happy to see everyone that comes out. Kind of see, whatever. I will see some of the games
You'll
played
hear
on
them.
Thursday. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes.
JR, you got anything last words?
Yeah, one big thank you to everyone who's working with KFPL on the judge side on being able to help with the organization. I really appreciate that. And again, shout out to TCO being able to actually play during this COVID pandemic. Thank you to literally all of our content producers. I know that we called out a number of podcasts. There's others too that I'm listening to. There's YouTubers, Twitchers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We really do appreciate it, and I can't stress enough that you help keep me sane during this time. For everyone out there, we still have some really high numbers, so stay safe, go to work, but when you need a break, go ahead and come join some great games, whether that is with KFPL, whether that's with Chainbound, whether that's with your spouse or a significant other, or a friend or someone who is close by. Use a video camera, use TCO, use something that's there. But play games, have fun, and hopefully we'll be able to see everyone sooner rather than later.
If you need camera tips and tricks, FFG, I heard, has a great video for it. So check out the latest response. We'll talk to all you guys later.
And I still don't know how I even survived.